Good morning, everybody, and welcome to ESO Daily. I am your host, Mr. Craven. All right, guys, so it's been requested that I do the update for the Tesla Coil build, and I can completely understand why many players want the update for this build. It is a really great build. Prior to Horns of the Reach, and even after Horns of the Reach, it still continues to impress. There have been some slight altercations. I will go ahead and get into all this, and hopefully, some of these adaptations aren't too, bothersome. I didn't find it so. I'm still having a problem getting ideal traits for weapons. Oh, this game hates me with that. But besides that, it's still a really good build. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, getting into the character sheet. You're going to see my max Magicka at 43,900, slightly under 44. You're also going to see Magicka recovery is at 1602, and there's a good reason why it's that high. I will go ahead and get into it. Max health is slightly under 20, which is ideal for me. Spell crit is at 54.6. To the left, you're going to go ahead and see there's 50 points allocated into Magicka, 14 into health, and we are running max health and max Magicka, and we're running the Thief Mundus. Now on the dual bar, you're going to go ahead and see that we have 43,257. Magic recovery is at slightly dropped to 1582, and health has remained the same, and crit has remained the same. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the gear. There's been no changes with the gear, right? You can go ahead and take off niche let me go ahead and get into this discussion first. You can replace the niche's touch with Juliana's and then go with the Nirnholm. You would actually be pretty solid doing it, because the Julianos gives 299, where the niche's touch, even with gold, is a solid 400. You can do that, and if you add, but the problem of it is, for the Sorcerer, you're not going to go with Nirnholm staff. You want to go charge. The reason being for the concuss with the Sorcerer, especially the elemental wall. That's kind of important. I always play to that with the Sorcerer. I rather have the charge trait on lightning staff on my Sorc because those concuss, and knowing that he's a high elf, he's getting the bonus to the lightning. That's me personally. But you couldn't go Nirnholm. You would actually increase more than the niche's touch would provide, and that would go ahead and free up your Mundus. So you can do that. I'm just going to keep with the niche's touch though, because it's providing all the stats I need, and there's not too much of a difference as far as the gear layout on the back bar switch. And actually I messed up here. I got something messed up. Let me see here. Elegant, this. I'm on dual bar, right? I should be having both bonuses. I got one too many friggin' elegant sets. Yeah, pieces. Let me fix that really quick. Snatch. That should be niche, except my niche probably in the thing. Up right here. Up. I got my imp pen right on. My gloves are probably in my other one. Alright. So, anyways, those are supposed to be divine. Those are my bank. Sorry. I do have them. Anyways, so you can do that, right? So, I'm using the Goblet's Charged Lightning Staff, right? It's kind of important because this is charge. It increases the applied status effect by 220, guys. That is very, very, very important because it allows the uptime for the concuss to be more relative to the off balance to increase your other party's damage. All right, and I also have that with the increase. Why? Because the tank's probably going to be running the crushers. I don't need that penetration. I need the spike to my damage. All right, so that's a niche touch staff charged. I do have the elegant, but it's in a different trait. It is what it is. Elegant sword, decisive, ideal. I cannot stress in this build why you want decisive. You're going to be running Moloch Kina, right? Moloch Kina, when you proc it with the power overload, it increases the cost of the power overload as well as your Magicka cost on your ability. So ultimate cost increases. So to recoup, ultimate faster, even during those moments, in Magicka, I want decisive I want to use decisive. Now, currently, this is with Crusher because I was doing it with PvP, but it's supposed to be using increase. So I do have it with Crusher. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be increase, but decisive, ideal trait. Powered niche touch, it's not ideal. That's supposed to be decisive too. Okay, so I want decisive. A lot of people are going to be like, why not infused? Why not infused? Well, here's the deal. I have a 20% chance when I gain ultimate, right? Every time I get an ultimate, I have a 20% chance. But putting 2 decisive, I'm increasing my chance to gain ultimate. I want to gain ultimate faster is what I'm wanting to do. So I want to increase the chance to gain it. That's why I want another decisive. Okay, so for me, I'm proccing Kina all the time. I want to increase the ultimate regen, hence why I want to go with decisive on both, because I'm in power overload a lot. So these are supposed to be decisive. Molakina, medium head, infused, ideal. Glyph Max Magicka gives me the medium and heavy. Gives me the undaunted passive towards my undaunted metal, increasing all my stats by 6%. Elegant Jerkin, infused, ideal, max Magicka. Molakina, glyphed with max health, ideal. I want to say around that 20k mark. Niche's Touch, divine, max Magicka. Elegant Gloves, divine, max Magicka. That's ideal. I'm running out of Duroax. I have too many characters. Ideal. Elegant Breachers, infused, max Magicka, ideal. My divine feet are in the bank. I need to go get them. Right now I have the impen on. But it's supposed to be the divine, max Magicka. And then, of course, Elegant Necklace, 169 recovery. Niche's Touch, 169 recovery. And Niche's Touch, 169 recovery. Now, typically on all of my builds, I would say one should be your 174 increase. Unfortunately, with this build, you don't want that to happen. The reason being, once again, you're proccing Molakina in your opener. What that does is it increases the cost. I need a lot more recovery. That's why I need the extra recovery boost. So that's why I'm going to tell you with this build, stay with all the recovery on the jewelry. Okay, because you're always going to be proccing Kina. That's what gives it the hard-hitting effects that it does. Now, let's talk about Molakina here. Since Morrowind, there's been changes to Molakina, right? All right, so at one time, it was really expensive to proc Molakina. So we had to do 2 light attacks. So I used the lightning staff to go ahead and proc the Molakina. That triggers the overkill for 6 seconds. That allows me to lay down all my derated effects. I'm not too worried about Molakina on my frag proc. What I want Molakina for is in my power overload proc and in my derated effects. So like Wall of Lightning, Liquid Lightning, Wall of Elements, Liquid Lightning, Fury, all of those have a delayed effect, which you can lay down during Molakina's proc phase. When I do that, then I can go ahead, weave up heavy, hit the recoup, trigger all the effects, boom, rinse and repeat. That's how I set up the Tesla Coil, and that's why it's called Tesla Coil, because all the effects have a delayed return system, right? So as soon as I go ahead, I'm pushing out a lot of energy, and then I'm regaining the energy back from the draw. So hence why it's called Tesla Coil. So it's named after my favorite inventor, Nikola Tesla. That was my favorite scientist, engineer, inventor, everything. Nikola Tesla. If you don't know who he is, look him up. Makes every other scientist and inventor look stupid. So yeah, great stuff. That's pretty much it as far as the gear. Now let's go ahead and get into the skills and how I have it. Okay, so on dual bar, I'm having Liquid Lightning. Remember, Niche's Touch bonus applies to the dual bar. So I want the Liquid Lightning on this side. That's very important. I'm going to go ahead and utilize and get the boost from Niche's Touch applied to Liquid Lightning. No surprise, I'm going to follow up the Endless Fury. The Endless Fury has lightning effect. I have the Crystal Frags on here. People like the Crystal Frags. I'm kind of impartial with this build because I use power overload a lot, but it's fine. It is what it is. Bound Ages, I'm going to use this because it's going to go ahead and increase my max magicka by 8%. Plus, it's going to go ahead and give me the minor resolve and minor ward, increasing physical and spell resistance, which is always a plus. Inner Light on both bars. Now remember, these two have to be on both bars so they don't drop. Reason being, I'm going to go ahead and get the Major Prophecy, increasing critical rating. And I'm also going to get increased to magicka by 5%. And of course, the power overload. I'm going to go ahead and hit this. It's going to deal 22,308 shock damage and heavy attack blast an enemy in the target area for 8,804. This hits hard. I can get big crits with this. I'm going to be on the staff side. I'm going to be using the degeneration. Some people like to use the power surge. It's fine. But I don't like power surge on this build. The reason being, degeneration offers a damaging effect, the buff, right, which gives me major sorcery. And they're like, well, you get heals from, critical surge. Why do with the degen anyways? I'm getting 1,745 up front, an additional 1,745 every 6 seconds. And when I do light or heavy attacks, power overload, I have a 15% chance to heal myself for 115% of the damage caused, and it gives a damaging effect. So yes, I'm going to hit this, and keep in mind the one thing that critical surge doesn't give me that degen does is the passive in the Mages Guild, which is the Empower, which causes my next attack to deal 20% additional damage. So I'll go ahead, proc up, spike this, proc the curse, and lay down. Also, I have the Haunting Curse. It's delayed effect. Like this a lot. Unstable Wall of Storms. No brainer. Even though it's not on niche, it has a chance to apply the Concuss. And I'm using the charge, so definitely I'm going to use this every day, all day. And for the ultimate on this side, I'll use the Thunderous Rage for AoE control in every situation. But on boss fights, I always use Power Overload. Now, on Power Overload bar, let me see if I have any ultimate, which I don't, and I do have to make a readjustment because I was PvPing. Perfect time to show you guys what I do here. Okay, I'm going to hit this. I'm always going to proc up. It's not so bad. Always proc up the Kina. Okay, let's get into Power Overload bar. Okay, Power Overload bar. I'm going to want to keep the Inner Light, right? I also want to go here. I want to keep the Bound Ages. It's going to spike up a lot more damage, so it's on there. I also want to go ahead and apply the frags, because when I'm hitting, I can go ahead and pop that when it procs. It's hard to see, though. I'm not going to lie. And the one thing I want to do is put the Haunting Curse here. And I also want the degen. The degen I can go ahead and spam in between to get that nice little proc head up. But if you want to put Fury instead of that, you can. But on the boss fights, the reason I don't do it, on boss fights, Fury's not going to proc. So I can keep applying the Haunting Curse. I can keep applying the degen on a boss. And I can proc the frag when it pops up. That's why I like this layout for boss fights on this, because I can still cast these while I'm in Power Overload, while I'm hitting with the Power Overload. So that's my personal recommendation for that. And I'm actually, like I said, I'm running behind. It's Labor Day, and I want to go ahead and say thank you for all the hardworking people out there that will go ahead every day, day in and day out, and do your jobs. Without you, this world would not be functional. We all have to contribute somehow, and once again, we have all diverse ways of contributing, but I want to thank each and every one of you who, go and do your thing all the time. Like I said, it's it goes down to the littlest things, guys. The littlest things, from the people who work in medical facilities to our teachers to our public service people like policemen, firefighters. Everything is a contributing factor to our society, and you all deserve a pat on the back. Thank you so much for your efforts. It goes to Decon. He's one of my subs. But yeah, guys, definitely. Yeah. I want to thank every one of you. But once again, man, thank you. And if you have any questions, now normally I'd be doing a dungeon, but I am like really behind. I got a lot of things to do. But there it is. There's the update for the Tesla Coil. Not much has changed since this, so there it is. Like I said, you can replace Niche's Touch with Juliana's. If you do that, like I said, you still want to go ahead and you want to go with Charged Staff. And then you can go with the Nirnhorn Sword instead of one of the decisives. But I would recommend still going with one of the decisives. Now, here's the deal. Juliana's would actually not be as beneficial as Niche's Touch if you don't go with the one Nirnhorn Sword. It kind of defeats the purpose of having Juliana's. If you apply one of the Nirnhorn Swords in the main hand, you're actually going to increase the spell damage more than what Niche's Touch would give you. And you would also be able to free up your Mundus from the Thief and then go with the Lover or the Apprentice, depending on how you allocate your CP points. And speaking of CP, we didn't get into that, so let me go ahead and cover that real quick. Almost forgot. Spell Erosion, 4923. Keep in mind we're using the Thief. We're not using the Lover, and Sharpen is taking a hit. So we want to go ahead and take into consideration we have 4,884 in concentration, but we need a lot more spell penetration because the tank should be applying Major Fracture and Major Breach. If they do that, then this is going more towards your cap line. So 74 points into Spell Erosion. Elemental Expert, 1301. Okay, Staff Expert is at 9, Master Arms at 73. So we don't want to go any higher Master Arms because of diminishing returns. But we want 75 points in this tree so we get the Butcher. That increases our light and heavy attacks by 5% when enemies are below 25%. It's increasing the finishing phase, and that's what the Power Overload does. So we're using light and heavy attacks with Power Overload. So I want into the Butcher. Nothing's into the Ritual, even though I'm running degen and some abilities that have a dot-based effect. I want to keep all my points put in here and my penetration, so I cannot afford to put into Thaumaturge because then it takes too much away from it, and it actually decreases my damage output. Not worth it. Ironclad, 1924. I had 1 point extra, put in light armor focus. Thick skin, 23 points. Hardy and elemental defender are split between 1208, and I always like a little bit of healing received, so I put my quick recovery at 8.12. Warlord is at 10.22, and I have tenacity because I'm going to be doing heavy attacks between my rotations way more frequently, so I want that at 1407. Arcanist is at 1407. Remember, don't go any further. Diminishing returns, healthy, 43, 10.15, and I have 2 points left, and I put in a tumbling. And there you have the CP system. All right, guys. Once again, thank you guys for watching. If you do have any questions or comments, please post below. I will try to answer them. Later this week, I also will be covering rotations, how to kind of build up if you're a new player. It's not going to be focused on vet players. So what I want to do is kind of like help players understand how to slowly and helpfully increase their damage and their bar swaps and things like that. So we'll go on rotation tutorials later this week. But like I said, if you have questions, comments, post below. Once again, I want to thank you guys for watching, and as always, have a nice day.